Hello everyone, welcome to 3DDesignAcademy.com. In this lesson, we will learn about history and query edit history. Now, Alias has something called a construction history, which can be used to modify any objects very quickly. So basically, it means it's a live data. So let me show you an example by creating some surfaces using these curves. So I'm just going to pick a monorail, and I'm going to pick this one and pick this curve to create a surface. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Pick this edge of the surface and also this curve. Now you'll notice that the surfaces are displayed in green, which means it has construction history. So now, in order to create this construction history, it's dependent upon the position of these curves. So these are the parent curves which were used to create the surfaces right here. So if I click the curve right here, you'll see that the surfaces are now displayed in pink, which means that this curve is the parent to this surface and this surface. So if I modify this surface, this curve, then all the ones in pink they are likely to update. So let me show you. So actually, instead of modifying this, I'm just going to modify this this curve right here. So let's say I want to just move the CV a little bit this way, then you'll see that the surfaces are automatically updating. Now this surface, if I click this surface, you'll notice that it's highlighting green, which means it has construction history. And you also notice that this surface is highlighting pink, which means that this surface is the parent of this surface. So every time this surface is modified, this surface is also going to follow. So, and for this surface, for example, if I click on this curve, for example, you'll notice that these surfaces and the curves are not highlighted in any color, which means that they have no bearing, they have no relationship to the curve right here. However, because the surface here is highlighted, it means that this surface is subordinate to this curve. So if I modify this curve, this surface is going to follow. Let me show you. So let me just stretch this using stretch. I'm just going to move this down like this. And you'll see that the surface automatically update instantly. Now, if I were to move this surface like this just by itself, you'll notice that a pop-up message comes up. It says an active item has construction history. Transferring the item will cause history to be removed. Do you wish to continue? So if you decide to click yes, if you decide to click no, nothing's going to happen. But if you decide to click yes, you'll notice that now it's a highlighted in white. And if I do pick nothing, you'll see that the surface is displayed in a blue color. It's not green, it's on pink, which means even if I move this curve, the history is dead. So it's dead data. And if I move this, I am free to move it. However, you'll see that these previous parent curve and the parent surface has no relation to this surface. Depending on the usage, this is actually good because Alias, Autodesk Alias has a little bit unstable history function, construction history function. So most of the time, if you're happy with the surface, it is recommended that you delete the construction history. Okay, let me also show you a different example. So, most of the tools in Alias has construction history function. So now I showed you an example with rail. I can also let's also show you guys a history function with trim. So I'm just going to project a curve and surface onto this surface right here. You'll see that the curve and surface is also displayed in green, which means it is live data. So if I modify this curve like this, you'll see that it updates. So this construction history also live even after I trim it. So after I trim it, and let's say I decide to move this curve like this, the surface itself is going to update with it, because right now the construction history of the curve and surface is live. So if I untrim it, you'll notice that the line is still green, which means every time I modify this curve, the pink now, the curve and surface, which is highlighted in pink, which is a subordinate to this curve, is going to update with it. So even if I trim it and I modify this curve, the trimmed edge is going to update with it. All right, and that's history. Now, there's also, let's say you have history with the surface, but let's say you want to go back to the options box of the surface. So there's a one quick way, the best way to access this, and it's called Query Edit History. Now, it is available in Object Edit, so you'll see that Query Edit History right here, or you can access it by pressing Control Shift middle mouse button, and you'll see query history right here. So if you do a query edit history and you want to modify any properties within the tool, so right now this was created using a rail. So let's say you want to adjust this rail. So let's say you want to rotate it a little bit. So let's just rotate it 5. You can access this. Now, let's say you accidentally got out of the tool, but you want to access the tool again. You can do that by Control Shift middle mouse button, going to Create History. Click on that. Click on the surface that you want to edit the history of, and you can just say, let's say you want to undo the rotation. Then you can just press 0 and enter. Now, this is mostly a lot more useful in a function such as a fillet. So let's put a surface fillet on there. So I'm just gonna click on surface fillet under surfaces. I'm gonna change this to chord. I'm gonna change the G to curvature. I'm gonna make this a little bit big. So let's say I want to start with 100, and I'm gonna change the form factor to 1. And I'm gonna change the flow control to edge align. So I'm gonna just click these two surfaces. I'm gonna say build, and you'll see that I have a nice fillet right here. But let's say I want to make this a little bit bigger. Now I got out of the tool, so how do you access it again? Same thing, query history. So you can either click on the palette, or you can access by Control Shift middle mouse button, query the history, click on this. And I can, let's say I want to make this very big. So let's say I want to go 300 and press enter, and I'll click on update. You are able to update the size of the fillet very quickly, just like that. All right, so that's history and query history. Okay, so that concludes this lesson, and thank you guys for watching.